What's going on, Chum Guzzlers? Welcome back to Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Captain Steve, and this is week 3 of Spooky Sharktober. And this week, we're checking out Camp Blood Clown Shark from 2024, directed by Polonia and Jeff Kirkendall. I'm just going to get right into the Letterboxd plot synopsis, and then I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about this franchise a little bit, because this is part of a franchise, but we'll get into that in a second. But first, the Letterboxd plot synopsis. The Camp Blood Killer and a Great White Shark. After being dispatched by a young woman with special ability to see horrendous murders in her visions, the evil spirit of the Camp Blood Killer passes into the fiercest of aquatic predators, the Great White Shark. When the killings begin anew, leaving law enforcement baffled, this courageous heroine must return to the woods of the infamous Camp Blood to face off again with a newly reincarnated killer before it's too late for everyone. Now, this has an average rating of 2.6 stars on Letterboxd, which is about, again, where we find most of our movies at. Now, a little bit about this franchise. I'm pretty sure I've seen the first one. I think Benji and I did it for a movie night a while back. But this franchise has 15 movies in the series. And as far as I can tell from everything I've read and seen, they don't all really take place in the same universe, because I'm pretty sure in some cases there are sequels labeled the same. So like there's 2 movies that are considered to be Camp Blood 3, and the series only goes up to Camp Blood 9, even though there's 15 movies. So it's very confusing. The point is, this doesn't really sit anywhere in particular, so I shouldn't be lost watching this by any means, other than it just being a Polonia Brothers movie and just having no idea what's happening. Now, as far as poster expectations go, as I say, with any Polonia Brother movie, I don't know what to expect. The poster is just a shark with a clown-like face, kind of digital art style. But I hope and assume that we'll get some sort of practical shark that just has like a clown head or clown makeup on it or something. And that's ultimately what I'm here for. I want something silly like that. But honestly, I'm not really expecting much else. And again, I have a pretty good inkling that this shark is going to look absolutely nothing like it does on the poster, as is par for the course, but I don't even think it's going to be even close to representing what this shark looks like in the actual movie. And before we dive into the plot of this movie, if you're enjoying the podcast and you'd like to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/bucketofchum, and for just $2 or $3 a month, depending on where you live, you can support the podcast. You get a free episode every month, early access to new episodes and whatnot. If you can't do that, if you could like and subscribe to the YouTube channel or leave a rating or review wherever it is you listen to your podcast, all of that would be greatly appreciated. But now there's nothing else left to do other than to see if this shark tastes funny, and let's dive in. So we get a title card that tells us that we are in Camp Blackwood sometime in August, and we see a woman running away from a killer clown in the woods. And this clown is carrying an axe with him, and it's a guy in a terrible clown mask who acts like very silly while stalking his prey. And of course, this woman trips, as they always do when they're running from the killers, and she sees a decapitated head, and then she has some sort of episode and everything goes white. So this is her like having her visions, and we do this a lot in the movie. And so then we're in a barn. So she's seeing like how this decapitated head came to be. And so we're with this guy's whose head we just saw, and he's working on a tractor. He hears some screaming outside, and he decides to check it out, and he thinks it's like one of his workers or like co-workers or something that's just like kind of fucking around with him. So he goes outside, and he yells for Cletus to get started work for the day, and then Cletus comes around the corner with his throat slit, and he collapses, and then the man turns around, and the clown is just there and chops his head off. So then we just go back to the forest with the woman. So this was her psychic vision. Why she had it, unclear. Don't know. But anyways, she runs some more. She finds another body hanging from a tree, and she has another psychic vision of this person being killed. And then she goes to a canoe, yells for the clown to come to her, like to come get her. The clown goes, and she's not there. He's looking around for her. And she comes out from behind a tree and shoots the clown with an arrow. She grabs the axe and then decapitates him. She rips the mask off and stares at it for a bit and then tosses it into the lake. At first I thought maybe we were supposed to assume that this was an ocean, but we do get some confirmation later on that this is just a lake. So the fact that there's a shark in it at some point still doesn't make any sense, even to the characters in this movie. But after all this, she walks off. We get our opening title credit sequence, which with any Polonia Brothers movie is just far too long. And then we're by the water, and it's now 6 months later. And then we see the eyes of this mask in the lake are starting to glow, and this starts happening to a fish that's nearby. And then suddenly the fish is just wearing the clown mask. Now, I'm not an expert on sharks or fish, but this fish looks nothing like a shark. But this does get explained in a little bit, if you even want to call it an explanation. I really don't know. But basically now it's a clownfish, right? It's not a clown shark, it's a clownfish. But I guess that doesn't have, not like a clownfish, like it's a clown fish. There's a very distinct difference between those two things. But anyways, we then see some woman in a bikini on the phone talking to a friend about working at a tanning salon and how terrible it is and blah, blah, blah. Who fucking cares? But then she says that she's going for a swim for a little bit. And her friend on the phone asks her, like, oh, well, aren't you afraid of sharks? This is so dumb. So this woman then starts to pretend to be attacked by a shark. And then she comes back on the phone. It's like, ah, ha, ha, gotcha. But as we find out later, like, this is a lake. So the friend on the other end of the phone was legitimately scared of this woman being attacked by a shark, even though they're in a lake, which I can probably guarantee you is not connected to an ocean in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, so this friend is a little bit stupid. So they hang up after talking to each other. She gets in the water, and then we just get the audio replay of her, like, pretending to be attacked by a shark and her just screaming shark. And then we get some, like, clown shark POV, and this just goes on for fucking ever. But then the fish suddenly transforms into a shark now, wearing the clown mask. And then we just see, like, a cardboard fin swimming through the water. And then we just have three people. We're done with this now, apparently. We're going away from this. So we have three people knocking on someone's door, trying to get this dude to come outside. And the man inside just says, like, these stupid rednecks. And, like, these three all just eventually walk away. But we go back to the woman at the lake, and then she is attacked by some transparent CGI shark jaws or something. And then she's just taken to the hospital, I guess, because we just see an ambulance driving away. That's pretty much all we get from that. And then we see the woman from the beginning of the movie, and she's walking around a train platform with a bow and arrow. So I guess after she killed the clown with a bow and arrow, she's like, I'm just keeping this around with me 24 hours a day. Girl, don't blame you. But then we see the sheriff and the mayor in the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's played by Jeff Kirkendall, who we see in pretty much every Polonia Brother Shark movie. And the mayor is played by the same woman who played Nina in Mummy Shark, so we got a connection from earlier in the month. That's exciting. Again, I mean, most of the cast and crew are in basically all of these movies together. Like, they don't really mix it up a whole lot. But anyways, the mayor is bitching about the newspaper, saying that there's a killer shark or mutant fish killing people. And this is also a lake. It's not an ocean. So again, this is where we get confirmation. This is a lake. So I guess it turns into a shark because the woman kept pretending to be attacked by a shark. Like, I don't understand how this magic works. I don't know if this clown was into voodoo or if it was into some other sort of dark black magic arts. I don't really know. It's not really explained to us. It doesn't even really make a whole lot of sense. Also, this means that the woman's friend is a moron, telling her to be afraid of sharks when she's swimming in a lake. So technically speaking, this is all the friend's fault, because otherwise this clown just would have been a fish. Probably wouldn't have hurt anybody because it's a fucking regular ass fish. I think it was like a catfish or something stupid like that. So yeah, she probably could have fought off like a clown fish, but not a clown shark. Not a clownfish, a clown fish. Again, there's a very important distinction between those two things. But anyways, the sheriff basically says that they won't do much until they get, like, the autopsy report. And the mayor basically suggests that it better say that it was an accident. So, like, no matter what they find, she just wants this report to say that it was just an accident, it was nothing else, so just lie. And then they talk about the killer being dead and all of that, and they don't need to worry about that anymore, and she leaves, and the sheriff calls her a bitch. I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, she's telling him to lie about an autopsy report, so I think he's kind of justified in calling her a bitch. But anyways, we go back to the woman, Jerry, and she's moved in with her sister, and this place is like 2 states over from where the camp used to be. And then we go back with the sheriff, and he's down by the lake and tells the man who was in the house that if he wants to report those men, he can. And we learn this man, Jacob, is the cousin of the killer. So that's why the rednecks were like trying to break into his house and harass him or whatever. So they chat about the killer for a bit. Jacob says the killer's spirit probably lives on or something. And I'm like, I don't really know where you're getting this evidence from. Again, a lot of these movies are just like the Prometheus of shark movies, where it's like characters just say and know things, and we have no indication of why they're saying this, how they know this, none whatsoever, which is left up to our imaginations, I guess. But they finish up and the sheriff leaves, and then we see a man going fishing at the lake, and then this is where we get some like more cardboard shark fins swimming around and whatnot. And then the man fishing calls out to the water, "Come to daddy, I need something big today." I also think this is like the most common phrase on any Republican's like Grindr account. That sounds about right. But anyways, we then get a look at this clown shark, and it is just a CGI shark with the clown mask superimposed onto it. That's all it is. Not even like a fully practical... It's not even like they took like the practical effect that they use for like Sharkenstein and the Mummy Shark and then put a mask on it. Nope, it's just this CGI shark with the clown mask that's been put on like a green screen or something, and they just like slap it on top of this CGI shark thing. It's... I don't know what exactly I was expecting, I guess, but I mean, I guess I sort of should have seen this one coming. So that's on me for not seeing that one coming. That's my fault. But now Jerry is sleeping, and she starts having a dream about the woman at the lake, the one who was killed, whose sort of fault this is, that it's a clown shark now. Also, one of her boobies is popping out of her shirt. We don't usually get a lot, if any, nudity in Polonia Brothers movies, but here we are. I'm not upset by it. She wakes up and is all frazzled, so she splashes water on her face, but then she has a vision of the woman and then wakes up for realsies this time. So it's been a dream within a vision within a dream or something like that. And then we see the cousin of the killer being walked through the woods by 2 hooded figures, and he's tied up. And then they tie him to a tree and threaten him with a knife and some CGI fire. And then they light him on fire. Oh, but wait. This was just him dreaming too. We've literally done 2 scenes with 2 different characters back to back doing a dream within a dream sequence. That's where we're at right now. Good God. I hope this is all we get for dream sequences. I don't need any more of this. But as he wakes up, he hears the clown laughter, and he goes outside and he sees one of the hooded figures walking away from his house, and he follows them into this smaller house. They both go in, and Jacob just sees images of like sinister clowns, but this is all like cutaway footage of CGI faces and just weird shit. Like they definitely didn't film this at the same place. It's just very weird. A very strange choice. I don't fully understand it, but that's what we got. The hooded man then threatens Jacob with a machete, and he sees the clown mask, and he unwillingly puts it on like he's possessed or something, and then his head explodes. Oh yeah, sorry, so that was just another dream within a dream. They literally did this twice in a row. Each had 2 dreams within a dream sort of thing. Like 2 scenes, 2 different characters back to back. Hopefully they just get this all out of the way now, and we don't need to do any of this ever again in the rest of this movie. Hopefully. And then Jacob's phone starts ringing, so he picks it up, he looks at it, we hear clown laughter, he looks scared, and then just sets it down. And so I guess he had visions of those clowns again. Like always, this is super unclear. And then next we get the sheriff questioning the rednecks that were harassing Jacob, and of course they deny everything, and the sheriff just insults them and tells them to leave. And that's it. A very unimportant scene that we just really didn't need. This was just filler. But then we go back to Jacob. He's sitting in his house, drinking beer, and then he hears like glass breaking or something. So he grabs a knife, He calls out to whoever did and says they'll be sorry. And then he sees a cross on the ground next to like a broken picture frame of what I assume is him and his cousin. And then he has visions of clowns yelling, and he starts like stabbing the air around him, and he sees the killer clown standing in front of him, but then it just disappears. So it's like they're trying to do a Friday the 13th knockoff in a way, but I also heard or read that the first movie was basically, because it came out in 1999, I think, so this franchise has been going on for like 26 years, which is probably 25 and a half years too long, but that's besides the point. I'm pretty sure they made the first movie as sort of a direct response to like Scream being very popular at the time, so they wanted to make their own sort of slasher movie, so they went with like a Friday the 13th sort of avenue, which is, you know, a little bit weird. I'm like, if you're trying to bank off the success of Scream and maybe do something similar to that, that's a whole other thing, I guess. But I don't know, man. This is just so weird. We go back with Jerry, and she goes to the kitchen, and her and her sister talk about her having like nightmares and whatnot. And then Jerry thinks something bad has happened because she saw the mask in her vision. And she tells her sister more about her visions and says she's going to try and stay strong, and maybe she can control her visions and like consciously project her spirit into them. Sure. How is that going to fucking help at all, other than you just already witnessing what's happening in these visions? I don't really know, and I don't think this movie will ever fully explain to us how this is going to be helpful. And then we see the sheriff watching some people bag up that fisherman's body, and he gets a call on the radio from the mayor, and she like yells at him asking like what the hell is going on. And again, that's kind of all we get from that. So we know that the mayor is still mad. The sheriff still doesn't really know what the hell's going on. And so we then see Jacob getting his ass kicked by the rednecks, who tell him he has a day to leave town or there's gonna be trouble. Oh no. And then that night, Jerry sleeps, and she has a vision of the fisherman dying, and she's now projected herself into this vision. Which, if this is a past event, is she trying to time travel? I fucking don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the purpose of projecting yourself into visions of the past is going to do. Unless you're going to get some clues about stuff. I don't really know what clues you could be looking for, but again, don't really know. And so she talks with her sister again, and she says it's because of the tragedy she experienced that, you know, this is why she's seeing all this stuff. And the sister says, like, this can't be true. A killer shark with a clown face, that's not real. But Jerry insists the killer must have found a way to come back despite having his head chopped off. And he sure did, somehow, through unknown magic. Which, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, like, the Friday the 13th franchise never really explains why Jason just keeps coming back. He just does. But, I mean, that was also, like, the 80s and 90s, and so, like, I don't really need that much of an explanation. If you're gonna do something new and original, you gotta give me something new. You gotta give me something different, but at least, like, have the killer be, like, a satanic ritualist, or have like a witch bring him back to life, or something. I don't know, do something to make this make like just an inkling of sense, like just a little bit. I'm not asking for a lot here, but I don't know. But Jerry says that she needs to go back to this camp, and the sister says, like, no, the police can sort out anything that's happening there. I'm like, oh yeah, because the police are so fucking reliable. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. But anyways, we go back with Jacob. He's cleaning himself up after the beating, and then after he's done, he has a vision of the clown in the mirror, and then he hears the laughing again, and asks, like, what does it want from him now? And then he tells the clown to, like, show himself. And then Jacob's eyes glow red. He walks out of the house. So I guess he's possessed by the killer now. I just want to remind everybody at this point, too, this movie is called Camp Blood Clown Shark. I just want to remind you of the clown shark part of this movie, because I haven't talked about it in a fucking while. So I just want to, you know, bring everybody back to, you know, what we're supposed to be doing here. But anyways, we then see Jerry's sister getting into the tub. Again, more nudity, which is like the only thing saving this movie so far. And Jerry's in her room doing research on the clown killer, and she sees the fisherman from her vision again. And that's, I don't know why. I don't know why. It doesn't really fucking matter. And then in the tub, the sister hears the clown laugh for a second, but just kind of brushes it off. And then some water starts bubbling in the tub, and the clown mask just floats to the surface. And then she has a vision of the clown, and the mask sinks back down. Why? I don't know. And then she looks, and the clown is beside her, and it starts choking her. Oh, but wait, guys, guess what? It was just a fucking dream. It was another goddamn dream sequence. Oh, it's so frustrating. So frustrating. But Jerry comes running in, and they notice that she has, like, handprints on her neck, so it's like a Freddy Krueger situation, like, where this thing can attack you in your dreams and it affects you in real life, sort of thing. Like, I guess that's sort of what's happening here. So it's kind of like Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street and just other bullshit. That's where we're at right now. So the next day, Jerry is going back to the camp, and she says goodbye to her sister, who tells her to be careful. And then we see the sheriff with the coroner, and they're going over what's left of the fisherman, and they try to speculate, like, what could have killed him, what kind of animals, etc. Then in the middle of all of this mess of what they have left of this fisherman, there's an enormous shark tooth, and the coroner says his best guess is it's a shark. No shit. As Jerry drives closer to the camp, her radio starts going all staticky and whatnot, and then she has a vision of the clown. So she puts the gas pedal down, and she just drives right through this apparition or vision or something. And then we follow the three rednecks getting ready to go visit Jacob with some guns in hand, and they storm into Jacob's house, and they start calling for him. They split up, search the house, and then the mirror starts playing visions for one of the dudes. And we see Jacob on a dock giving them the middle finger, and then a vision of Jerry telling the dude to get out of the house. And then Jerry wakes up in her car and starts driving again. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how or why any of this is happening. But the redneck who saw this in the mirror tells his friends he thinks he knows where Jacob is headed, so they go to the water where the vision showed him, and then the clown shark jumps out of the water, and they ask, like, what was that? And one of them straight up just says, that was a clown shark. Roll credits, I guess. And it pops up again. And so they start shooting at it, and then they're like, screw this, and they start running away from the scene. One of them, like, rests against a tree, and then we just see a machete slit his throat. Wasn't a clown shark that fucking did it, but okay. And then the other two continue to run and call out for the other guy, and then one of the other dudes is then stabbed. And then the last one standing starts shooting, but runs out of bullets, and so he starts running away. And then we just see the bottom half of Jacob running through the forest after him until he finally stabs him. So everybody getting stabbed in the forest is because Jacob put the mask on, and so now he's possessed by the killer clown, while the killer clown is also a clown shark. If you're having a hard time following, so am I. And then Jerry wakes up again, as if seeing this all in a vision, still in her car. Like, bitch, stop stopping. You're not going to make it to this camp if you make a pit stop every 5 fucking minutes to have a fucking vision. You're not being any help right now whatsoever. You're kind of being lazy, actually. But then we see the sheriff going through crime scene photos or maybe screenshots from other movies in the series. I don't know. And he gets a call from the coroner. And the coroner confirms that it was a shark tooth that they found, a great white shark. And the sheriff is like, but it was in a lake. This makes no sense. Keep me informed if you find anything else. Okay. We then see the clown shark thing, and they are clearly using, like, a tiger shark or something as the CG model. Like, it is not a great white. Like, I'm sorry, it is not a great white shark in any way, shape, or form. I'm, like, 95% sure that this is a fucking tiger shark. But then Jerry comes storming into the sheriff's office, and she tries to warn him about the killer returning, that he's not dead and he's returned somehow, or at least his spirit has. And they argue a bit, and she says that she's going to go deal with it herself, and she goes to leave. But the sheriff stops her and is like, listen, you need to convince me before you start going out and doing all your, like, vigilante escapade bullshit. So she asks if there's ever been any great white shark attacks around the area. And then the next scene, they're just in the car driving, and the sheriff is, like, a little bit more willing to believe her. What coincidental timing, guys. And so they arrive at the entrance to the woods, and they start heading for the dock. They come across the body of one of the rednecks, and it's just the director, Mark Polonia, laying on the ground, and I guess they didn't have any practical blood, because they just used some, like, clip art blood, and just kind of, like, put it on the screen, and they're like, oh, yeah, look at him, he's so dead. Oh, yeah. Oh, it looks terrible. But anyways, they continue on, and then it's the same thing with the next redneck. And then they come to the water and find Jacob standing there. And so the sheriff raises his gun and tells Jacob to turn around with his hands up. The water starts bubbling, and an axe rises up from the water. It flies into Jacob's hand as he puts the clown mask on, and he starts walking to the sheriff and Jerry. So the sheriff shoots him a bunch of times, but it has zero effect on him. And then Jacob axes the sheriff right in the back. Jacob Clown starts chasing Jerry through the forest, swinging the axe around and stumbling like a madman. He eventually finds Jerry just standing still, but it isn't her. It's a projection of her. So instead of projecting herself in her vision, she's doing it in real life, somehow, for some reason. And then she just appears behind a tree and shoots arrows into the clown. And then she shoots a flaming arrow into his head. He falls to the ground, and his body just disappears, leaving only the mask behind. And then Jerry just buries the mask, leaving an arrow to mark the spot. And then we see the mask, like, in the hole, buried, and the eyes light up. We hear the clown laugh, and then that's it. That's all we got. I'm also going to take this opportunity to remind you once again that the title of this movie was Camp Blood Clown Shark. We barely got any shark. I will say, when we did see it, pretty fucking funny looking. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous, but we didn't get that classic Polonia practical effect that I was hoping for. It would have been totally fine if they literally just took a shark prop. I don't even care if it's like one of those IKEA shark plushies and then just threw a clown mask on it. That's it. That's all they would have had to have done, and I would have been happy with that. I would have preferred that, but I also would have preferred if it was a practical shark that looked like the one on the poster, because, like, the design on the poster is pretty cool, and, like, I already knew we weren't going to get that, but I would have liked to have seen that instead, but that didn't happen. Overall, it was fine. It was silly enough that I got some enjoyment from it. I'm giving it a 1 star, but not like a hateful 1 star. Like a 1 star, like, I had a fun time, but I won't watch it again, probably. But yeah, like I said, overall, it's definitely a good movie to watch with a group of people, because it's so just like, what is happening and why is this happening? This would be a really great group watch. I really don't recommend you watching it by yourself per se, although it is, like I said, it's enjoyable enough for a one-time watch, and that's it. I don't think that this is one I'm going to be rewatching next Halloween or anything like that. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for you this week. Next week, in case you haven't figured it out, we're doing Shark Exorcist 2 Unholy Waters with Bad Movies, Worst People. The episode's already recorded, and I'll be working on editing it after this episode comes out. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. And over on Patreon, very soon, we're going to be having Revenge of the Creature as part of your Patreon exclusive episode for October, celebrating Halloween. And yeah, but that's all I have. That was Camp Blood Clown Shark, despite the fact we barely got any clown shark. You guys know you can follow me on all the social medias. That's TikTok, Slasher, Blue Sky, all at Bucket of Chum or at Bucket of Chum Podcast. But I'll see you guys next time for even more Bucket of Chum.